Yep, it's the end of the week. Got a good weekend coming up, being Labor Day weekend. A lot of people are having a 3-day weekend, which is Saturday, Sunday, and being able to be off on Monday. Although a lot of us here at the radio station are going to be here Monday, including me. So don't forget to turn us on. You might be out having some fun, but you can still hear a lot of the shows like David Tulis with Nooganomics. You can be hearing shows like Cowboy Up with Tex right here on Hot News Talk Radio. And, of course, if you can't get us because maybe you're out at the lake having some fun, into the season fun, you can always find us at hotnewstalkradio.com and check our archived shows so you don't have to miss a thing. Or you can even go to YouTube and check us on YouTube for our shows. Of course, we're always on Twitter. You can get Twitter updates talking about not only what's going to be on the shows, but you can get breaking news on our Twitter feed. That's always a good place to go. Well, I started out today kind of laid back, looking forward to the weekend. I was looking forward to having a nice, quiet day. But then I went and checked my mailbox. And I had a letter in my mailbox from the city of Chattanooga. Yeah, it's always fun when you start getting nice, thick envelopes from the city. And I'm thinking, oh, my goodness gracious, what is going on now? And I opened it up, and I've got a letter addressed to me at my address with the very personalized opening, "Dear property owner," okay? And it says that due to changes being made at the Virginia Avenue intersections, a traffic hazard now exists at my property. And I'm like, what? What are they talking about? So I start reading down into the letter, and they're talking about how that there's a bush at the back of my property that's going to be a visual impediment because they're trying to change Virginia Avenue from an alleyway to a pedestrian and bicycle throughway. They're putting little bicycle symbols down on the ground and putting stop signs up and all sorts of stuff. And so somehow this little bush that's right at 3 foot tall and maybe a foot around is a visual impediment. And that if I do not do something immediately, non-compliance will result in a court citation, at which time there will be a court cost of $39 and fines up to $50 per day may be assessed. And I'm like, oh, my goodness gracious, what are they talking about? I have a wooden fence at the back of my property. How do I have a bush? And I get to looking at the picture. And here's the fun part, folks. It's not even my property. So I got in my truck and I started driving around, and literally 2 blocks away on a totally different street, I finally found where they took the picture. Because, see, they had included this nice picture and had circled the offending bush. Hedges need to be trimmed or cleared. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, this is the little bush that they're making such a big fuss about? I mean, how much money did it cost the city to fill out 5 pages of stuff, and then they didn't even have the right house? You would think on one of those pages they would have figured out that it wasn't my house. But, you know, that's the way the city goes. You know, instead of just coming up, maybe knocking on my door and, excuse me, sir, we'd really appreciate it if you could do this. You know, give somebody the benefit of the doubt at first, and then if they don't do it, then send them a letter. But they don't even bother doing that. You know, they got to lower the boom on you from the get-go. Do this or else. Court fines, this fine, that fine. We want your money because you let a blade of grass grow 2 inches tall. You know, I mean, it's just the city. What can you say? Anyway, so now I'm kind of irritated, you know, because they got me all worked up trying to figure out what the crud's going on. So I got in my, well, first thing I tried to do was I called the number on the bottom of the main page. In fact, I had to call the number 3 different times because each time I called, I was not getting an answer. I was getting their automated thing. And when you tried punching a button to go to the right place, it would send you to somebody's voicemail hell. And so finally I gave up on trying to get somebody by phone. Here's a big broad hint, city of Chattanooga. Answer your phone. When you're on hold, they play Chattanooga Choo Choo. They also do that on their 311 system. That's kind of the city's theme song for hold music. And folks, as long as I was on hold today, I was getting real sick of that song. But anyway, so I don't live that far south of downtown. Thank goodness I don't live somewhere like up in Hickson or, out on the east side or someplace like that. So I just jumped in my truck and drove up and went to the department that I needed to go to for this. And I asked to speak to the gentleman that had sent me the letter. This was a Mr. Randall Gardenhire. Well, I find out that Mr. Gardenhire only works 4 days a week. Now, maybe he works really long days the other 4 days. I don't know. But he only works 4 days a week. You would think that maybe, perhaps, he'd get his job right on the 4 days he does show up. But anyway, he did not show up today. So I'm like, well, who else can I talk to? Well, there was various other people that I could talk to, except they also were not there. So apparently the reason nobody was answering the phone was because nobody was actually working there today. Well, the nice lady that was in the office there, Ms. Johnson, she was actually really helpful, and I showed her what I was talking about, and she promised that she'd get it taken care of. But the thing of it is how this whole thing was handled. First off, the number one thing that you have to understand about not just the city of Chattanooga, but any government entity, whether it's the city, the county, the state, the federal, the number one thing that you got to remember about any of these organizations is the rules that apply to you and me do not apply to them. And regardless of what the Constitution says, regardless of what the law says, you and I are always guilty till we can prove our innocence. This right here, talking about I'm going to be fined. I haven't even been to court yet, and they've already got my fine picked out for me. And that's what I was up there telling her. She was like, oh, well, you can just ignore this. Well, no, I can't ignore this because I've had butt-ins with the city before. And if you don't hit this stuff off at the pass, it's 3 times more difficult to get it resolved after the fact because they have no incentive to resolve the matter because they've got your money now. You think they want to give you your money back? Lots of luck on that one. Well, anyway, now, while a bicycle lane might be a good idea, the Virginia Avenue that they're doing this on starts out as basically an alleyway. And finally, down around about like 45th, 46th, it starts actually turning into a street type area where houses actually front it. So it's no longer an alleyway. It's Virginia Avenue that has houses on it. And the only way these people can get in and out of their houses is to drive up and down Virginia Avenue because it's a street. Well, somebody in the city decided they wanted to make a bicycle throughway and a pedestrian throughway, and this was picked. Now, when they did this, they had a little meeting down at the old St. Elmo fire department down at 45th and St. Elmo. Was this the only thing they talked about? No, they had several things that they talked about, and this was kind of just one of the little things. Oh, by the way, we're talking about maybe doing this later on, and didn't have a whole lot of information at the time. Now, St. Elmo is a historic area, and a lot of people, when they want to do anything to their house, even paint the house, you have to go literally get permission from the city because it's in a historic area. We just had one of my neighbors that put a pool in her backyard. She had to send letters to everybody around her for like 2 blocks to let us know that she was talking about putting a pool in her backyard. And if we had any comments, good or bad, we needed to fill out a piece of paperwork and send it to the city. Meanwhile, she had to put these big 2-foot by 3-foot signs up at her house where they were going to be having a hearing on this. And then they had to schedule this hearing where it was done in front of a committee, and they had to put their 2 cents worth in on this too. And this is just for a little bitty pool in the backyard that doesn't affect anybody else. But yet when the city decides they want to take a street and turn it into a bicycle throughway, which means they're going to be putting what the city calls bollards. I call it putting up big concrete barriers to keep people from driving. Do you think they put big signs up saying, hey, we're talking about doing this? No, they didn't. Did they put any sort of notice in the paper saying, hey, we're going to have a meeting talking about this? No, they didn't. Did they send letters to every single one of the property owners whose property abuts Virginia Avenue? No, they don't. All of those are what would be required of you and me if we were going to be doing that. The city is exempt from the very things that they make us do. Every hoop that we have to jump through, the city exempts itself from. And then one day we wake up, we're going, wait a minute, what happened to my alleyway? Well, we had a little meeting way back when we had this charrette. Anytime the city of Chattanooga says they're having a charrette, grab your wallets, folks, because they've already decided what they're going to do, and they're just wrapping the audience around it so that it looks like it was our idea when it wasn't. I've been through several of these charrettes throughout the city, and every single time there is a predetermined outcome that the city will push on everybody. You know, I don't ask much of our government, whether it's the city, the state, county, the federal. The main thing I ask our government is to leave me alone. Let me live my life as long as I'm not bothering anybody else. But the second thing I ask any government agency or entity to do is to abide by the same rules that apply to me. If it's illegal for me to do it, it's illegal for them to do it. If I can't do it, they can't do it. It's very simple, because America is supposed to be a land of laws. The laws apply equally to everybody. Whether you're the lowest of the low or the president of the country, the law is supposed to apply equally to everybody. But then you see things like this. Do what we say when we say it, or you will pay. Seems like I remember some country was doing stuff like that back in like the 30s and the 40s. What country was that? Maybe it'll come to me a little later. Maybe if you can remember what country that was, maybe you can give me a call up here at 800-8949. If you've got any examples of where the city has done anything like this to you, or the county or the state. If you've got an example, give me a call, 800-8949. I'd love to be able to hear more examples like this. You know, because time and time again, we see where there are people that do not have to obey the same rules. The same rules do not apply to them that apply to you and me. Another good example. Have any of y'all heard of the gentleman named Louis Farrakhan? Louis Farrakhan is the founder and the leader of the Nation of Islam, which is a primarily black organization that has their own version of Islam that's founded and practiced here in America. Sometimes you'll see some of their adherents at some of the city intersections, especially in some of the inner town neighborhoods, and they're wearing little, small, thin, tight-sitting black suits with a little black bow tie and white shirts. That, you know, they're dressed very nice, but it is a uniform. You can tell a Nation of Islam adherent from a mile away. Well, Louis Farrakhan came out the other day, and mincing no words, he's one of the gentlemen that's responsible for the Million Man March. And he is calling for 10,000 of that 1 million men. He wants 10,000 black men to arm themselves and shoot whites, to shoot you, me, and especially police officers. Police officers are number one on their list. But he wants 10,000 black guys to go out and shoot white people. He's calling for it. He's demanding it of his followers. Now, if you had a white organization, like maybe say the Ku Klux Klan, that was calling on some of their members to go out and arbitrarily just go out and shoot random blacks, do you think maybe, just maybe, the federal government would get a little upset about that? Maybe the Justice Department might look into that a little bit? But because it's Louis Farrakhan, you don't hear a word out of it. In fact, you hardly hear a word about it out of the media. Do you hear anything about this on ABC, CBS, NBC? No. Do you see anything about this in the Chattanooga Times Free Press? No. Meanwhile, go down over off of 38th and Alton Park Boulevard, and you'll see some of their signs out that are saying, "Justice or else." Million Man Rally. Justice or else. Well, you know what the or else is? The or else is when they're going to shoot us. It's that simple. Justice or else. And they've got these big signs out. Now, why isn't this being looked at by law enforcement? Why are they able to get away with stuff that you and I would be put under the jail for? If you or I did it, it would be front page news and we would be being railed against. I mean, you know, Donald Trump makes a comment about illegal aliens being in the country and, oh, he's a terrible man. He's stating a true fact. Illegal aliens are illegal. They should not be in the country. You had Paula Deen, who back 20, 30 years ago used the N-word and apologized profusely for it. But we got to run her out of business. We got to bury her. Donald Sterling, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, had to give up his team because of a racist comment he made in private to his mistress. But, oh, we got to run him out of town. He can't own a basketball club. But Louis Farrakhan is actively calling for a minimum of 10,000 white people to be killed strictly because of their race and no other reason. Do we hear a word out of the White House? No. Do we hear a word out of the media? No. Do we hear a word out of the Justice Department? No. Louis Farrakhan can call to wage his own personal jihad on America's police department, and you don't hear a word about it. I mean, don't the laws apply equally to everybody? Aren't the laws there to protect people? You know, Black Lives Matter. Well, you know what? The Black Lives Matter people are the people that are calling for the murder of cops. You're starting to see a little bit of pushback on that. But when they say it to the Democrats, Black Lives Matter, Bernie Sanders tried saying all lives matter, and they like to bury him. He had to leave because the Black Lives Matter people were being so aggressive. All lives matter. If Black Lives Matter so much, why is there so much black abortion? Why is there so much black on black crime? That's a very simple question right there. Why is there so much black on black crime if black lives truly matter? Apparently, black lives are only supposed to matter to whites. Blacks don't have to worry about whether black lives matter or not. There's more examples of how laws that apply to certain people don't apply to others. Look at Hillary Clinton with all of her emails. You know, there's been a few people that have been put in jail already for one or two instances of accidentally having emails go to somebody they shouldn't go to. She's literally got hundreds of them now. Where's the media on that? Where's the law on that? Why isn't the Justice Department hauling her in to ask her about the laws that apply to her? We'll be back with more Cowboy Up with Tex after these commercial messages.
Give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here come the Volunteers. It's football time.
It's football time. It's football time in Tennessee.
Join Coach Butch Jones and Team 119 as we kick off the 2015 season in Nashville against Bowling Green State University, Saturday, September 5th at 3 p.m. in Nissan Stadium. Tickets and stadium parking are still available by visiting NashvilleSports.com/Vols. That's NashvilleSports.com/Vols.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Join me for a delicious barbecue dinner that's a fundraiser for Union Gospel Mission. We're serving up barbecue, either pork or chicken, slaw, baked beans, and dessert, all on Labor Day to support our ministry to homeless guys. We'll be at table on Monday, Labor Day, at New Haven Baptist Church at 1058 Graysville Road, right at the intersection of East Brainerd Road. We'll serve from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. or until the barbecue runs out. This is John Rector, and the meal is free, but with joyous hearts, we will accept donations. All proceeds go straight to Union Gospel Mission to support our Christian programs for men who commit to stay and study with us. For more information, give me a call at 752-4998. The name is John, and we're looking forward to seeing you.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off. We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Yeah, it's always nice when city officials know where their own streets are. How good is it when your city officials can get lost inside their own streets? Well, anyway, we were talking a little bit about laws and how they apply to some, but not all. And especially if that all is a governmental entity or person. Yeah. I got a kick out of on Twitter today. Hillary Clinton, of all people to post this, Hillary Clinton posted a message saying that marriage equality is the law of the land. Officials should be held to their duty to uphold the law. End of story. Really? Hillary Clinton is talking about officials being held to their duty to uphold the law. End of story. How many laws has this woman broke? They don't even know. They've quit trying to count. They know about all the different things going on with the emails, but there's also all sorts of stories that have been being bantied around about how that the campaign donations are being held. In fact, the same guy that's been doing a lot of the exposés on Acorn just released a video showing Hillary Clinton's campaign director taking an illegal contribution knowingly. She even said on the film that, well, we're not supposed to do this, but if we can kind of work around it like this. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing was against the law, and she's on camera. Well, Hillary, officials should be held to their duty to uphold the law. End of story. Are you going to fire this person? Somehow I don't think so. But what she was saying this in response to was because the lady down in Kentucky, the court clerk, has been thrown in jail. The county clerk, Kim Davis, has been thrown in jail for contempt of court for refusing to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Well, let's look at a couple of things on this. First off, she was obeying state law, the state law of Kentucky. She was obeying the law. Now, and a federal judge decided he didn't like the fact that she was obeying a state law and decided to throw her in jail till she changes her mind. Well, exactly which federal law did she go against? She didn't go against a state law. She didn't go against a federal law. She went against an order from a federal judge, which is not a law. But he's thrown her in jail, and nobody is standing up for her lack of due process because he's a judge. He's the very one that should know when he's the one breaking the law. Does it matter? No. In fact, several Republican presidential candidates had suggested that, well, maybe she ought to issue the marriage licenses. Thank goodness we do have a few of the presidential candidates like Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Mike Huckabee who have come out strongly in defense of her on the grounds that, amongst other things, her religious liberty is under attack. And let's look at this for a second, too, in a little bit broader light. The reason the federal judge feels he's able to say this is because of the recent Supreme Court decision on gay marriage. However, that in and of itself is a questionable decision because two of the judges that listened and ruled on that case should have recused themselves. By law, they should have recused themselves. And the fact that they failed to do so means that they themselves should be impeached for knowingly violating the law. Our own attorney general, our own governor, should have demanded that the case be reheard on the basis that these two women violated the law by even sitting on the panel, much less ruling on it, when there is such an obvious conflict of interest involved. Did our governor and our attorney general do anything about that? Apparently not. What about the governors and the attorney generals of the other states involved? No, they just bent over and accepted what came their way, legal or not. And see, that's the thing about the federal government. Right now, the federal government, via the White House, via the EPA, the EPB too, for that matter, but the EPA, IRS, various other agencies, BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, they come up and they jump up and down on people, common, ordinary people, not for breaking the law, but for breaking a rule that is not based in law. And rather than fight it, people just acquiesce. It's better to go along to get along type thing. The problem is when you give in to a bully, and don't forget, they say the White House is a bully pulpit. When you give in to a bully, it just emboldens the bully, because if you'll do this, what else will you do? How much further can we push them? Well, this lady, Kim Davis, she stood up to them. And she's in jail right now. But if the people will rise up and defend her and demand accountability from organizations like the Supreme Court, like the federal government, it could change things. Because that's why America's going so downhill, because people cannot trust the government anymore, because the government does not enforce the law equally to everybody. They decide who they want to do something to and will bend over backwards to do whatever they have to do to make that person an example, like they're doing to Kim Davis. The law be damned. What if they come and decide you're the next one that they want to make an example of? Remember the old one about, well, they came for the Jews and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. They came for the gypsies and I didn't say anything because I wasn't a gypsy. You know, they came for these people, but I wasn't one of these people. They came for those people, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't one of those people. Then they came for me, but there was nobody left to say anything. That's the direction this country is headed really fast right now. Another good example, Judicial Watch, which is a conservative group which tries to keep an eye on the government, announced today that it had filed a complaint with the Federal Election Commission requesting that it investigate the Democratic National Committee because they had knowingly hired an illegal alien. Well, of course, right now, the whole DNC, their whole thing is about how we have to do anything and everything we can for the illegal aliens. Right now, you get better medical care if you're an illegal alien than if you're a veteran of this country's armed services. And that's a true fact. They said the other day that they showed where there was something like 200,000 veterans had died while waiting on medical services from the VA. But yet, you make it across the border, you're instantly given all the medical help you need. Well, Judicial Watch filed this complaint on August 25th. It seems as though the DNC had hired this Cindy Nave with full knowledge of what the DNC's own chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, termed Nava's undocumented status. Despite not having yet attained legal status, Nava is working for the DNC as one of a crop of fellows from around the country helping the party organize. Even the Spanish language newspaper El Nuevo Herald reports that Nava would help coordinate DNC to outreach with women, youth, and Hispanics. The only problem is federal law prohibits foreign nationals from participating directly or indirectly in the decision-making process of federal, state, or local election-related activities. Ergo, they know she's illegal. They know that they're paying her. And even if they're not paying her, it's still illegal for her to assist. In the FEC complaint, It's charged that the United States has prohibited non-citizen participation in election-related activities for over 50 years. Even the Supreme Court has held that such prohibitions are legally permissible under the U.S. Constitution. Foreign nationals cannot direct, control, or otherwise participate directly or indirectly in the decision-making process of a PAC, Political Action Committee. So on its very face, the DNC's decision to hire Ms. Nava is in direct violation of the law. And if the FEC does not investigate this, they're breaking the law. You think that really matters to anybody in the DNC? What they'll probably do is they'll probably just lay her off and it'll just go away. Well, just because you quit breaking the law doesn't mean that you no longer should be prosecuted for breaking the law initially. That's like saying, well, I no longer beat my wife. Well, shouldn't you be prosecuted for beating her in the first place? Because there are two elements of this crime. They knew of the alien status, and they still made an employment offer, both of which were crimes. Thus, the DNC is violating federal law by hiring Cindy Nava. What's going to be done about it? No wonder this nation has a border and illegal alien crisis. Not only do you have a major political party knowingly employing an illegal alien, but they openly boast about it to the nation's press. The Justice Department and the Department of Homeland Security should take appropriate law enforcement action immediately. The first thing they need to do is to get her and deport her. If she's an illegal alien, it's that simple. Well, it looks like we've got a call coming in. Let's see what we've got going on. Hello, caller.
Hey, Tex.
Hey.
Appreciate the show. Listen, I wanted to ask you something.
Okay.
Well, Mrs. Davis, the Kentucky clerk, is offering as her defense for not issuing gay marriage licenses for personal convictions. She seems to be standing on her own ideas about what marriage should be and shouldn't be. And, of course, she has a Christian argument, which means that she, you would say, might deserve First Amendment protections for religious liberty. On the other hand, do you think it might be a better way of approaching her defense to offer not subjective reasons for her intransigence, but objective reasons, perhaps her oath of office, perhaps the provisions in the Kentucky Constitution, the amendment as grounds for, in good faith, saying no. She's saying no in good faith, but it seems to me that Matt Staver of Liberty Counsel and she are proposing subjective reasons for her position rather than objective ones. And it seems to me that it shouldn't really matter what her views about marriage are. She should look at what her authority is.
Exactly.
She's been saying very well. You've been saying very well. Her authority is the Constitution of that state, the state law, and her oath. It seems like maybe that she and her defense attorney should emphasize these outward things, not her private, emotional, subjective, or religious perspective. I'll listen to your answer on the air, Tex, okay?
Okay. Well, thank you much for that call. You know, and that is the major distinction to me is if it comes down to it, if you are, some people call it the 10th Amendment nullification. If you do not enforce a federal law because you are doing a state law, the states can do something about that. If the state says we're not going to enforce a federal regulation, but we are going to enforce our state regulations and let the federal government enforce their laws themselves. You see this happening in cases like marijuana. You know, you have states like California saying we're not going to enforce a federal rule. The feds can enforce it, but we're not going to help them. We're not even going to let them borrow a jail cell. We're not going to give them any manpower. We're not going to even give them one thin dime. If the feds want to do it, the feds can do it, but they got to do it themselves. We're not going to help them because our state law says something different. Well, in Kentucky, the state law very clearly states that a marriage is between a man and a woman. And if the federal government wants to say it's something else, well, that's up to the federal government to do. But here's my question. Where is she being held? Is she being held in a federal facility, or is she being held in a state facility? Or is she being held in a county jail, a city jail? Where's she being held? If the state of Kentucky had any cojones, they'd be standing beside her saying, you can't have her. She's upholding our law. And that's where her power as a elected official comes from, is by being an official, a elected official. That's why they can't fire her. She's an elected official. In fact, if anything, they ought to be arresting this federal judge for doing what he's doing. He's not enforcing a law. He made a statement, a personal statement, and then threw her in jail illegally for not obeying his personal statement, which is not based in law. All the Supreme Court can do is issue an opinion. And in their opinion, the law that came before them was illegal and should not be enforced, as far as only men and women could get married. But that doesn't mean that that's a new law. What that means is that the states bear the responsibility to go back and pass a new law. So what he's saying is, on the face of it, a personal opinion. What she's doing is based on state law. And that's a simple fact. And there again, by people not standing up to individuals like this judge, they're letting their own rights be taken away from them one at a time until we won't have any left. You know, and it's such a shame. You know, this used to be such a great country. Oh, we weren't perfect. But somewhere along the way, we took a left when we should have taken a right. And by taking a left, all of our rights have been being taken from us. That's why it's so important that we get the next election right, because if we don't get the right person in the presidency, this next president might be our last president, because this country will cease to exist as a republic, as a democratic republic. It will just be a dictatorship where the president can wave his pen and wave his phone, and where judicial activism can do anything they want, and all of this can be taken from us. When they're not responsible to anybody, they have no responsibility for anything they do. You know, like I said, you know, Marco Rubio was here in town yesterday, had a nice rally downtown. And to be blunt, it wasn't as big as the rally that Ted Cruz was in. And right now, Mr. Rubio is a little bit further down than Mr. Cruz is in the polls. But I was impressed with both of them. You know, and that's an enviable position for any party to be in, is when you have multiple good people running for an office, as opposed to right now, the Democrats, they have multiple people running for office, and their leader is Hillary Clinton. Ugh. I mean, you have a toss-up between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, who is a self-avowed socialist. You know, you call most Democrats socialists, and, oh, you can't call me that. You call most Democrats liberals. Oh, you can't call me that. Bernie Sanders is out there saying, yeah, I'm a liberal socialist. He admits it. At least you got to give him kudos for that. At least he's an honest Democrat. as opposed to Hillary, who's about the most dishonest Democrat I've ever seen. But Marco Rubio had some really good things to say. I don't know if there's any way for somebody to go online and be able to see his speech from yesterday, but he made some really good points. You know, and I will say this too. Now, yes, I am originally from Texas, hence the name Tex. And I have followed the career of Ted Cruz a little bit, and I really like him. I will say that I was not as impressed by his stump speech as I was by Marco Rubio's stump speech. But I think that either one of those gentlemen would be a vast improvement over what we've got now. And we've got other people that are in the running. People like Mike Huckabee and others. And I do understand, though, why right now the top three people in the running for the Republican side are all three non-political people. Of course, you have Donald Trump, you have Carly Fiorina, who are both business people, then you have Ben Carson, who's a doctor. People are getting tired of politicians in general, but that doesn't mean that there might be some politicians out there who can get the job done. We just need to get the ones like Boehner and McConnell, who are nothing more than rhinos, Republicans in name only. We need to get people like that out because they are doing nothing to help the party. They're doing nothing to help the country. Everything they do is for their own little selfish reasons. And that is the main problem with the country. Do you think that Barack Obama is doing what he's doing for the sake of the country? He's got an agenda. And I will say this, Barack Obama has been an extremely effective president in getting what he wants done. The problem is that what he wants done is not helpful to the country. He's doing his best to tear this country down. And in that regards, he's doing a very effective job. So folks, get out there. Check out who all of the candidates are. You need to learn who the Democratic candidates are, just so if somebody comes up and starts talking to you about them, you know what to say to them. If they start telling you, oh, you know, I saw Bernie Sanders, I really like him. Oh, yeah, well, you are aware that he is a self-avowed socialist, don't you? You know that he's promoting this and he's promoting that, don't you? You need to be able to talk to people about who these people are and what they believe to open their eyes. We've got to make the right choice, and we've got to pick somebody that can make the laws apply equally to everybody. Meanwhile, issue a city map to every city employee so they know where they're at. Have a nice weekend.
Give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.